We are brought into this world and pass through it. And in the early years, we begin to get one major feeling about life. A feeling and a thought and an attitude that overwhelms all else. That feeling is that of helplessness. We come in here into this life and we associate with other people and with events, and everything seems so much stronger and wiser, more powerful, even domineering. And we look at ourselves and we see we have no power at all, no authority, no wisdom, and we attribute, incorrectly I might add, we attribute wisdom and power and right authority to other people. And we even welcome it in many wrong instances because we think that other people know more than we do. They have the answers to life. And much to our sorrow in later years, we find out that they didn't have the answers at all. They played the part of someone having the answers. And when we're young, small, because we know so little ourselves, we're so eager to look around and find someone who can guide us, help us, that we believe in people. And we get all sorts of strange ideas about where our salvation, our deliverance, and our strength is going to come from. But for the first many years of our lives, the dominating feeling is one of utter helplessness. We may not show it on the outside. We may bluff and we may pretend that we have it made, that we know what we're doing. But inwardly, we cry a lot. And we feel that we're at the mercy of everything out there. And this feeling of being at the mercy of life urges us to want to do something about it. And we always make the wrong move. We begin to feel incorrectly, think incorrectly, that if we're overpowered by other people out there, by events, by circumstances, by luck, as we call it, by fate, we feel that there is one thing we can do, which is the greatest mistake of our life. We feel that we can protect ourselves by hiding out. When we feel helpless, the phrase, how can I protect myself against the threat of the world? People tell me I must be successful, and I don't know what that means. People tell me I must behave in a certain moralistic fashion, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all, especially when I see my advisors doing the exact opposite. So we see the threats coming at us from north, east, southwest. And we start building a wall around ourselves, around our lives, hoping, thinking that they will protect us from that threat that is so ununderstandable. We don't understand what it's all about. We reason if we could even understand the enemy, maybe we could push it back, keep it away from hurting us. And it hurts us quite constantly. Has this been your experience in life? Of course it has. So we say, there's one thing I can do, which is to protect myself by putting up a brick wall around me. So if you'll just picture a man going out and he has his home, which is his self. He goes out and he gets lots of bricks and he gets cement. And he starts at one side of his property line and starts to build a brick wall. And he gets it up, a few bricks up. No sooner does he have them up, then he looks over his shoulder and someone is attacking him from the other side, so he races over there, puts up bricks over to the west, over to the east. The first few years of our life, in fact more than a few years, are spent in erecting a brick wall around ourselves. Wasn't there a point in your life when you got tired of being hurt by people? Those parents came over to you and you were terrified just because you could read the expression on your father's face or your mother's attitude, and you shook inside. You see why people turn to building a wall around themselves? So here's this man working frantically for the first several years of his life, building this very thick and very high brick wall around him. And he stays inside it, and he says, at last I'm safe. Nobody's going to hurt me now. He's built up all these ideas that he has about religion, about where he's going in life, and he repeats phrases about how powerful he is in the world. And he hides behind this cluster of ideas as to how he's going to be safe for the rest of his life. But inwardly, it's quite a different situation, and he knows it. What he took as the right course for his protection has become his prison. There he is. And you'll understand what I mean on the next phrase. There he is, trapped by himself, living with himself, all his ideas, all his acquisitions, including all the ideas about how he's going to protect himself from a cruel world out there. So he has all these ideas, and he's inside the high, thick brick wall, and he is still scared. And I have described the life of practically every human being on earth. Now look how confused he is, how doubly hurt, how frustrated. He said, I took a normal, logical course in preventing people and events from hurting me, and it still happens. Now listen to what I'm going to say next. His pain becomes so bad, so severe, that an incredible thing happens to him. He begins to believe that his lack of protection is protection. He begins to call his pain pleasure. He begins to think that he's okay as long as he stays behind the walls, that he's at least in charge of his little kingdom there, and everything is all right. And he refuses to see the agony and the heartache and the anger that contradicts it. His words say one thing, I'm okay, and his feelings say the exact opposite. Now look the state he's in. Haven't I described everyone? Haven't I described you? Everything inside this circular wall, everything is the man's enemy. Everything inside is his enemy because it's all delusion. It's all make-believe. It's all a wrong move. Therefore, anything he does, any action he takes while living inside this psychological brick wall, any move he makes is going to be wrong. It can never be right. Everything is wrong inside there because everything is wrong with his thinking. He doesn't understand himself. He doesn't understand a woman that he's in relationship with. And so he has a sex problem. He has a relationship problem in a dozen ways with the world out there. And he doesn't understand it because he says, I'm safe, and yet I'm at the mercy of that woman. He's at the mercy of his wrong memory, which comes up and instructs him to do this or that, and the memory guides him wrong. This is what he's counting on, his memory to guide him right, but it always guides him wrong because he made it wrong in the first place. Here is the situation. Here is the situation of human beings. Having been hurt in younger years, not knowing how to handle it. We didn't have the intelligence, the wisdom to know how to reply to that sick world out there. We didn't know. We didn't understand. We thought that those people were helping us, and they weren't. They were hurting us. So we come back inside the wall and listen to what I'm going to say next and explain all. It will explain all human wars and all human crimes to you. Here's this man inside the wall. In his frustration and his anger and his violence, all carefully concealed from himself, of course, all pressed down, all this pressure inside of him. He doesn't know what to do with it. He thought he did, but now he's inside. He doesn't know what to do with it. You know that suffering is a great pressure? He has to find a release, doesn't it? And do you know what he does? And you'll see the illustration in this. That man inside there, not knowing what to do with himself, not which direction to turn in. You know what he does? This explains wars and crime and 1,000 other problems. He reaches down for a brick. He tosses it out over the wall, and the next door neighbor over that way, who is also in his wall, gets hit by it. The neighbor feels the rock on his head, and he said, who did that? He doesn't know. He's inside the wall. He doesn't understand any other human being. He's just as locked in as the other man. But he got hit on the head by an accidental rock thrown by a man with pressure. And what do you think he says? He says, even inside my protective wall, I get hurt. There must be evil people out there. He picks up the rock and he throws it over in another direction, hits a third man. Third man picks it up, throws it to all the people inside their walls, all throwing rocks at each other insanely, not knowing what they're doing. Here's the man. He's got all this anger and violence in him, and he picks up the rock and he throws it and hits another man. That is what is called a lack of conscience, a lack of ordinary decency. What does he care? All he knows is this terrific force that must express itself, must explode like a volcano, and he picks up the rock and he throws it in any direction. And this is what he does all day long, and this is why he gets rocks on top of his head all day long. And he says to himself, I have to keep throwing those rocks. That's what they're doing to me, which, by the way, is a very childish statement. Why don't you try sometime not throwing a rock at someone else, a verbal rock, an emotional rock, a rock of a wrong facial expression. Why don't you try not throwing at them sometime and see the different thing that goes on inside of you? It'll put you through some disturbance, different kind of disturbance, because all this time you've been taking the energy and doing the wrong thing with it. Next time you're going to throw a rock, pause a little bit, and that will begin to give you a clue that you don't have to do that. On with the story. We've left the man inside the wall, frustrated, not knowing what to do. And the reason he doesn't know what to do, because as long as you are inside the wall all by yourself, you are in sheer ignorance of the way out. The way out, that even that doesn't occur to him as a possibility. How can he know the way out when he's in? If he was to hear someone say, you can get out of here, what does that mean to him? He wants to be there. That's what he chose, and that's where he feels safe. At the same time, he feels most unsafe. Now, if we left human beings in this condition that we've just left this man, it would indeed be a very hopeless situation. There'd be no hope for man if this is where we left it. But now you listen to me. There is an outside of the wall. There is space outside of every wall that a human being has built up outside of him. And shall I tell you what that space is? You won't understand it because you're inside walls, but I will explain it to you in words. And if you'll follow what we're going to cover later, you'll see it for yourself. Outside of the wall is something that is called God. Something that is called eternity. Outside the wall is innocence, peace. Outside the wall is sanity. Outside the wall is light, freedom, everything that a human being way down deep yearns for and yet distorts. Now, up to this point, I've given you the two conditions. The state that man is in right now and the state that any one of you in this room or watching this film can attain if you do what it is necessary to do. And that will be explained to you too. Our man is inside the wall, suffering terribly, keeping it well hidden from himself and from other people, pretending that he's happy, because pretense must be inside the wall with that man. It's a false condition situation, therefore he must pretend that all is well, that he's doing exciting things. So here he is inside. Every once in a while, a certain human being on earth, inside their own little self-made prison, will begin to hear something that is coming right through the wall. And what they're hearing is a voice, a message of reality, a spiritual message that is trying to get through that very thick and high wall and to try to tell the man the mistake he has made. And that voice is the voice of God indeed. And this voice is trying to penetrate the wall and get through to the man certain basic preliminary facts. And these facts at the very beginning consists of telling the man the condition, the actual state he's in, that you're unhappy, not happy as you pretend to be, in order for the man to set aside the imagination that tells him he's doing the right thing, because he isn't doing the wrong thing. If you're unhappy, you're doing the wrong thing. And this voice, after telling him that he's in a wrong condition, which can be changed completely, after it tells him that, it then goes on to a very interesting instruction, which is happening in this room and on this film right here now. What this voice is telling him is how to build a ladder. The voice says, now you're inside this wall, and it's quite possible for you to begin to learn how to build a ladder that you can set against the inside of the wall, climb up the ladder, and get out into the other world. For a long, long time, the man resists the message because, ladies and gentlemen, he is in love with his miserable state. He likes to get mad. He likes to resist truth. He likes to pretend that all is well. He calls his inside prison the open space. He calls his delusion reality. All right, that's the problem. It's coming right through, the message is coming right through what he has to do in order to build a ladder and get out. But he doesn't want to hear, so that's the first problem. He doesn't want to. If the pain gets too bad, then he'll begin to listen, and here's what he'll hear. The ladder consists of spiritual facts, of acquiring knowledge, of learning, for example, that you are indeed in a hopeless and helpless position as long as you stay inside there and refuse to investigate any alternative, any other possibilities. So the facts at the start to come to the man, and the idea occurs to him that these facts are indeed parts of the ladder, which he can put against the wall and climb over. And so for many, many more years, after the message first starts penetrating his receptivity, for many, many years after that, he starts to acquire true knowledge, spiritual facts. And even that isn't easy, because for a long, long time they get mixed up with all his delusions and pretenses and falsehoods that he has collected and called truths. So real truths start to come in, principles, ideas, right ideas, start to come in. They get all mixed up with his, and for a long time he can't tell the difference between one and another. And this is where a teacher comes in. This is where a true book comes in to help a student find out the difference between his old false ideas and true ideas. So for a long time he collects ideas, sifting them, sorting them, throwing out the junk, all those related to the lie that he has to be someone in this world, the lie that he's going to go somewhere, he can go somewhere on his own, he can't go anywhere. Now, again, after many more years, the man finally has enough facts together to build the ladder. So he puts it together, and he takes the ladder over, and he sets it against the inside of the wall, and for many, many years, he just stands at the base of it, afraid to climb. Anybody can collect knowledge and build the ladder. That's the start. If you're receptive, you can. But I want you to understand that there's a very critical point in your spiritual life, any of you here, once you have built that ladder of facts, you're not out, and don't you dare let imagination tell you that you're now loving, that you're now kindly, that you're now healthy and can help other people become mentally healthy. See how easy it is to go into self-deception and pride and vanity and conceit when we get a little spiritual knowledge. We immediately twist it for our own wrong ego-serving purposes, which keeps us inside the wall and inside our own suffering. So a man has the ladder of knowledge, and for a long, long time, as he stands there at the base of it, he ponders the fact that he's not out yet. He says, here I've been reading all about open space, about reality, about freedom, about peace of mind, about living an actually competent life. I've been reading about it, and then a new intelligent thought comes to him, and he says, I've been reading about it, but I don't have it. See, that's intelligence, to see that he has all this knowledge, but no active life inside him that conforms to it. And very reluctantly, he puts his first step on the ladder and starts to climb. And then the second step. And every step doesn't come day by day, it comes month by month and year by year. And when he gets about halfway up, he puts both hands on it, and he looks longingly back, doesn't he? He looks back at all the things he's going to leave. For example, he's going to have to leave all his tears, all his bitterness, all his hostility, all his blaming other people that he found so handy when he was down there. He looks back and says, do I have to leave all? And the message comes through, you must leave all. And he takes a deep breath and takes another step, another step, another step. You understand, I will repeat, that this is not an overnight process. This is a long, long, many, many years of starting from where we were to where you even get to the stage where you sense that you must act upon the knowledge that you have acquired. That you have to leave everything and everyone behind back there. No looking back and saying, I'm going to go back. So he climbs on and on up, on and on up. And he finally makes it to the top of the wall. Not yet. When you're on top of that wall, you're not out yet. You can still jump either way, can't you? Now comes the final crisis, and if you have read spiritual books, if you've studied yourself, you know how often the point is referred to in where you have to make the one final leap. Once and for all, make up your mind which you want. Your liberty, or go back to pseudo-liberty with all its pain, all its fantasies, and all its pretense. Very, very much its pretense. So now we have our man on top of the wall. And I'll ask you, from the very start of the talk tonight, where we saw the man as a small child, where he got hurt so badly, physically, mentally, emotionally, where he failed in school and didn't understand why he should fail and all the other children passed, and why all the other children seemed so more intelligent than he was. And then he grew up and he went out into the world, and he wanted so badly to make a lot of money, to have a right relationship with a woman. All these things went wrong. All his hopes and all his dreams crashed. And he went through all these other stages, building his protection, seeing that it was no protection at all. Shall I ask you here tonight, what stage are you at? Can you see where you are? Can you choose it tonight and see exactly where you are? If you can see where you are, I will guarantee you that with great sincerity and a great right yearning and a wish to no longer deceive yourself, you can not only get to the top of that ladder, but when you get to the top of that wall, and you catch your first glimpse of that real world, of that outside world, the world where there are no problems at all, where there's no self to cause problems, it'll be no contest. You'll take the leap down. This is what is called entering eternity while you're still alive here on earth. And you must enter eternity while you're still here. You can do it and you must do it. Where are you making a mistake in the journey from the time when you were a small child and started to get hurt by this world to the point where you could jump off the wall and should jump off into something so utterly different that the mind can't describe it? Where are you still resisting the voice? Where are you now? Inside the wall, dreaming that you're outside. If you get angry, you are inside. If you hate any other human being on earth, you are inside. See it. That's good for you to see it, not bad. This is honest, and it's for your sake. If you like to hurt other people in any way at all, if you like to cause trouble to them, you had better see where you are. Whose sake do you think we're talking about? For whose sake? For those of you listening, hearing here tonight. Don't you see we're talking about your life? We're talking about where you are. And we're talking about the beautiful, powerful news that says you can get out. Truth says so. Reality says so. God says you could lead an entirely different kind of life. And you can prove it for yourself. Everything wrong with our lives is inside the wall. Now, if everything wrong is inside the wall, are you going to stay inside the wall and try to correct it? This is what everyone is trying to do, live in their own little self-enclosure, having their way, their convictions, their beliefs, their ambitions, and saying that they're going to cure themselves and the rest of the world. That's like lunatics in an insane asylum saying they're going to cure each other. That's exactly what it is. Everything inside the wall is wrong, and nothing inside the wall is capable of correcting itself. How can the cause of the neurosis be the cure? Everything inside the wall is black, wrong, unintelligent, incapable of doing anything for itself. Now, how's that for a blow to human egotism? Everyone goes around saying they know the solutions to the political problems, to war, to crime, to heartache, to loneliness. Everybody goes around saying they know the cure to it, and everyone is suffering from it. How can the inmates of the insane asylum tell you how to become sane? Impossible. Now, thank heaven there is an outside of the wall. But if you don't want it, you'll never find it. If you're perfectly content to be miserable, then that's where you'll stay. If this is what you've chosen for yourself, this is the way you'll live. But anyone who wants to listen and try to detect the message that is not coming from something inside the wall, you can begin to hear something that is authentically different, that catches your ear. And you'll go running around and do your mad tasks inside the wall, but all the time you'll be saying, "What's that? What's that I'm hearing?" This is the beginning of your right dissatisfaction with living where you are. And for a long time you're going to resist that voice because you think it's a threat. Of course you think it's a threat, because you take your darkness as being light. You take your darkness as being your friend, therefore you take the message out in the light as being your enemy. Of course. This is how a sick mind operates. We're trying to listen to the health, to the sanity that's coming through that wall. Something we don't possess, but which we can acquire by the grace of heaven. Something that comes to us. Remember the other night? Something that comes to us. Remember the other night I said that you can't give anything good to yourself? You try it. You try giving yourself an accurate life. You try to give yourself the cure for your haunting nightmares. Try it. Where are you going to get it? You're going to get it inside the wall of your own prison mind. What we're trying to do here is to give up in the right way. Give up looking to our own madness for sanity. And you won't do that until you know that there's something wrong with your mind. Do you think that there's a person in an insane asylum can cure himself if he calls himself sane? Which he does. Don't you see that he has to begin to see that he's not sane at all? That he does strange things, odd things, self-defeating things? Does things that terrify him? With the ending of your own attempts to rescue yourself, that's the beginning of rescue. Not of your old nature. It can't be regenerated. You can only leave it. What do you think climbing the ladder is all about? Leaving your old nature, thank heaven. You can't find anything good inside the wall, and you might as well make up your mind tonight once and for all that that is a fact, and that's a glimmer of authentic spiritual intelligence. Don't be afraid to leave. All your friends are going to stay there. And you watch them when you're in their home. You watch them out in the office. You watch them out shopping. You watch your friends and relatives and strangers out in that world. And you'll see people who have been building this wall so thick and so high for all these years that they have determined to live the rest of their lives inside it. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, if you will recognize the fact of where you are. Where you are is inside there. That's the first requirement for getting out and not going into imagination that you're already out. Don't go around quoting spiritual passages and think that you understand them. You don't. If you understood them, your life would be different. You wouldn't be afraid of people if you were outside that wall. If you're afraid of people, you're inside. If you're afraid of what they can do to you, you're inside. And that means that you would like to do something bad against them, because that's the only defense you know, is to strike back, is to throw the rocks out. How many rocks did you throw out today? See, you don't care about other people. You just forget the word love. You have no idea of what it means. All you do is quote love while you're tossing the rock. And of course, you're always the innocent victim, right? You never toss rocks. No, everybody tosses rocks down onto your inside of your brick wall, but you never toss any. And I'll tell you why. You never see yourself tossing them. All you see is their rocks coming into you, so you can consider yourself a victim, an innocent victim. You're so guilty you don't see your guilt. You don't see what you're doing because you're unconscious. All the time you're doing everything, you don't see it. You know not what you're doing. We're here to wake up by seeing what we're doing. By seeing that we suffer from every move we make while we're inside the wall. Let's get out. Let's show a little sanity. Start building the ladder and collecting facts. And that's the first stage. That's where your courage starts. Take the facts. It's hard on the vanity. We know that. Who wants to be told that he's wasted his life for 30, 70, 80 years? Nobody wants to be told it. We're going to do it anyway. Anything you have to go through is worth it to get out of it. And you know you're in it. I know you're in it. Go ahead and kid yourself. You're not kidding me. I know what your mind is. I know how it works. I know how defensive you are. I know how you push away truth. I know how you think you know all the answers. God has a chance with a man or a woman who no longer knows the answers, who no longer claims that his answers are the answers. When you're completely out of answers, you've given God a chance to teach you something new, something real, something permanent, something eternal.
It seems incredible to me that hardly anybody questions the way they live or why life is the way it is. I doubt it. Very few people do that.
Do you understand why?
No, why do so few people question?
Very simple. Because you take yourself as your own God. Human beings live inside the wall and take themselves as their own God. Now, if I worship myself, if I am the source of my own salvation, do you see the madness in that statement when people make it? Then anything outside that is threatening to take away your self-worship must be the enemy. It makes very malicious, stupid sense to people when they say, I'm not going to go outside of that wall because I'll be in danger out there. Do you see it? And by the way, do you remember the talk last Sunday about the airplane finally flying out of sight where you can't see it anymore? This question that you brought up and my answer applies to that, and I'll review that very briefly. There are certain spiritual explanations which you can hear, which you can absorb, and which you can apply. However, there are grades of them, heights of them. Some truths are higher than others. And when you get to the point of discussion where you say a person must give up his old life in order to find new life, the airplane goes out of sight very fast because he doesn't understand what it means. His mind can't comprehend it. You'll never comprehend it with your mind. You'll comprehend it when the mind gives up and it no longer worships itself. Don't you know people who say they worship truth are worshiping their own minds? They're worshiping their own thoughts. I know what I'm doing with my life. You've seen them yell like that. Don't you tell me what's right. I know what's right. And they tell you all the books they've read, all the experiences they've had. And at the same time, they're telling you how free they are. You see the hardness in their faces and in their voice. How are you going to get through to a man like that, to a woman like that? Don't try. He's responsible for seeing it for himself. You can set the facts before them, which is what these classes and books are all about. And then your responsibility ends. Why don't we take all this false responsibility that we have towards saving the world, which we can't do anyway, and take all that responsibility and the energy that's inside it toward jolting ourselves awake, toward taking one more step up the ladder so we can finally get up the top where we make the final decision. Once and for all, this is it. I've caught a glimpse of what's out there. All that freedom. I can go anywhere I want. Nothing can stop me. I'm not fixed by guilt. I'm not barred by shame. Nothing can stop me. I don't care what my past has been. When you're out there, outside that wall, you can walk anywhere you want, do anything you want, and you'll never do anything harmful, by the way, and you'll never ever feel guilty again about anything because you're not living with this false self, which is loaded with guilt and falseness. You have to see yourself as you are, and at first it's going to scare the life out of you because you didn't think you were that bad. You thought you were respectable. You thought you were decent. You thought you were nice. People go around in this spiritual sleep. They have no idea of the harm they're doing to everyone they meet. I'll give you a personal example. I can't go into details on it, but I was going up the street one time, and a boy turned around and looked at me. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. Strangers. We were strangers. And that boy turned around and he shook his fist hatefully and angrily at me. And I tried to figure it out. Why would he do that? And I finally tracked it back to his father, something in connection with his father, which still had nothing really to do with me. But I know that that man, that father, had said something to his son, and his son, who is beginning to build his protective wall of hatred, of violence, and I'm somebody, out of the blue, he shook his fist at me in hatred. And I know where it started, with his father, who was also inside the prison. That father had no idea of the evil that he passed on to his son with one or two little remarks. He will never know, and that boy will never know either, in all probability. He was just obeying the law of negative nature inside him and his own father, and getting a pleasure out of it. This is the way the whole world is. People who go around telling you that they're doing good, they are doing harm. You are not going to wake up this world. How about you and your self-awakening? How about you? That's what you should be concerned with. So that you no longer going around doing harm, doing evil in the name of good. And in the name of God. Is there anything more evil than being cruel and vicious and saying you're doing it in the name of God? Can you imagine the inner condition of a man or a woman who would do that? Who in the name of God and truth and religion sneers at another human being, hates another human being, tries to injure, tries to block another human being. Can you imagine the state of such a person? Don't you ever go near the wall of the person and the person inside it. Don't you go within 10 miles of a person who insists on staying inside. He's the enemy of everyone else on earth, including you. I don't care how many love words he uses. You stay away. He's not your responsibility. The wall is there, and the message from reality is trying to get through to every wall. Never mind those who want to turn up the loud radio music to blast their ears so they can distract themselves with it. Never mind the people who turn up the radio that loud so they can't hear the message trying to get through the wall. You turn your radio off. You turn your noisy mind off. And learn to listen. You can be listening right here in this room tonight, and you can hear beautiful things, practical things, things that will become your strength, things that will do things for you that you can't do for yourself, that will begin to guide your life so that you don't feel helpless anymore. You won't be helpless anymore. You'll know what to do exactly. And in the practical affairs of life, running your business, taking care of the home, taking care of finances, your mind will operate correctly toward them. For one thing, you will know that mad human nature has distorted and corrupted natural earth. It has made a mockery of living here on earth, so that finances are mad. So that religion, ordinary religion, is a part of the insanity of the world. Your mind working right can see that because it's no longer a part of it. So even in practical things of daily life, your day goes forward quite smoothly, quite easily. But that's not the important part. The important part is that you have the sanity of everlasting life, the spirit of everlasting life inside you. And that spirit, by the way, then directs the mind so that it operates properly in a mad world. A sane mind operates properly in a mad world so that you're not confused by anything out there anymore. And you're not seeking to get anything from anyone out there anymore. What can they give you but their own madness, their own darkness, their own deception, their false smiles, their pretenses of love and caring? What can a madman give you but 1,000 varieties of madness? They are not sane. Do you want to be sane? Do you want to break out of the asylum? You're learning how right here tonight. Don't stop. Don't wait for anyone. Don't ask permission from anyone. You don't need it. God has already given you permission to climb that ladder and jump down and be a decent, sane human being for the rest of your life. Go. It is quite necessary, good, for truth to overwhelm you. You're getting your first glimpse that there is something that authentically cares for you. You know what it means to meet people and circumstances and words and books and lectures in which everyone seems to care for you. All they want is something from you. And what they want is for you to tell them that they're okay inside the wall. That's what they want. They don't know it themselves that they're doing that. I'm telling you that so that you begin to see what real compassion is. So that you'll let the truth overwhelm you, take over your life completely. Real miracles happen in this room. And you're beginning to sense, I know you are. Just as I know what's wrong with you, I know what is right beginning to bud right in you. You're beginning to sense the rightness of what you're hearing here. And you're hearing it with more than your ears and with your mind, aren't you? You know it, and I know it. And you know how I know it? Because I know that you're getting the pure truth here tonight, and always will and always have. And I know that when you keep coming back here all the time and studying, reading, hearing the tapes if you live elsewhere, I know that it's because you've got your first glimpse of that world outside. Maybe you're just up a certain position on the ladder where you can begin to see the light out there. Remember, those walls block up the light. You look up and you see a different light out there. And you come here and you begin to sense it. And isn't it wordless? You can express it if you want, but it's silent, isn't it? It's a knowing, a seeing, very clear. Well, do you want more of it? You know what you have to do. You have to dare to go against the habits of your life. Do you think they're going to surrender easily? They're going to fight you every step. Want some good news? Truth is more powerful than falsehood. Light is more powerful than darkness. It's no contest if you yield. There's no power at all that can stop any of you from getting to the top of that wall and jumping down and roam freely for the rest of your lives if you want it. Nothing can stop you, not even your own wrong parts. I don't care how sick, neurotic, psychopathic a human being be. I don't care how bad off he is, how many terrible things he's done in the past. I don't care how low he is. If he begins to listen, the whole past can be and will be canceled, and you'll be a new human being right now. And you'll understand exactly what that means. You will know what it means because you're living it. And it won't be imagination. You'll know it's not imagination because you went through that stage and you saw that when you imagined you were a good person, a loving person, when you imagined it, you still had heartache. You still had suffering. You still had conflict. You still had division. And you begin to think, I'm still suffering. I'm not free. Therefore, it must be imagination that I'm all right. I must be all wrong instead of all right. Good. Now you're getting smart. And then this higher state where you've abandoned the imagination about how marvelous you are, in this higher state you know it's real because there is no more anxiety there. It's gone. You are right when you're not anxious. You were wrong when you were anxious. See how simple it is? If you want spiritual logic, it can all come to you, and it will come to you. The whole story, the whole mystery story of life will be solved. You're solving it here tonight.
A few days ago, it was shocking for me to realize that the negativities I have seen in myself, there was a strong undercurrent of my not accepting myself and criticism. It's hard for me to explain this because I don't understand it myself. But I was still criticizing myself without realizing it. It was very subtle.
When you criticize yourself, you're criticizing a delusion.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
Who is this terrible person, this terrible woman that you're criticizing? She's non-existent. But you've identified with those dark emotions. They are real enough in their present state. They actually exist there. And you criticize them because you think this is a good person criticizing a bad person, therefore I must be making progress. You're still in the delusion behind the wall.
And I never realized it.
Oh, you now see it?
Now see it.
Ah, that's one step up the ladder.
Yeah.
Right.
To even begin to see that I'm in the brick wall is a miracle.
Yes, it's a miracle to see that you're there. Is that what you're saying? Of course it is. All your friends don't know they're there. They go around quoting religious books, don't they?
Yes.
Your relatives, you know how much they know. You bring up, look, you're seated around the dinner table with a bunch of relatives and friends, and the subject of God is brought up. Everyone talks as an authority, don't they? They talk an authority, and they don't even know what they're talking about. They know nothing about what they're talking about. You see, and you tell him, do you know you don't know what you're talking about? He gets mad, which proves it. Please.
How is not allowing another person their privacy, including parents not allowing their children privacy, an attempt to throw a rock over into their yard?
Yes, there is such a thing as natural privacy, and when that's invaded, you feel the wrongness of it. But a child, you know what a child is? Shall I tell you? A child is a victim. When you were a child, don't you remember how horrible it was? Did you ever meet anyone who tried to explain things to you, who was patient with you? And I'm not talking about discipline. Every child needs discipline. I'm talking about an adult explaining something to you, being patient with you because he understands you. It was a pretty horrible experience, wasn't it, for all those years? And all those thousands of both adults and children your own age. Do you know how cruel children are? Just look at them. At a certain stage, they're nothing but cruelty. They don't care who they hurt. In fact, they're glad they can make a cutting remark to someone. And then they grow up, and they don't make outward cutting remarks so much because now, in their cunning, they know that it's going to defeat what they want. And so they learn to lie and flatter instead, which means they're the same person they were when they were a child. Don't be afraid of your inability to understand these truths. When you have a certain fear that you're not going to grasp them, therefore not benefit from them, your fear is a false movement in itself. Therefore, you have to be very alert while you're here in this room to see how something inside that wall is trying to keep you there by saying you're not going to understand, you're not intelligent enough, you're not going to make it, trying to prevent you from making the right effort that you could make. Now, listen to what I'm going to tell you, and never, never forget it. First of all, I should preface by saying I'm not talking about physical fear now. There's a protective fear where if you cross the street, you better watch for those cars coming to save your life. Having said that, all fear is wrong unnecessary, and a hoax. Whenever you are afraid of anything whatsoever, you are listening to something from inside the wall. See, this is a spiritual world, a psychological world. It's a physical world, but we're not talking about that just now. This is a spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, the invisible world, the true world, fear doesn't exist. Now you can cross over from the wall, the walled little home there. You can cross out of that, over the wall, into the outer world, where there is no fear at all. But you can't take yourself with you. You still cling to the pleasure, if you can believe it, to the pleasure of fear of 1,000 kinds, because that fear is a familiar experience. It's a familiar entity called you. How many of you have been afraid all your life? Raise your hand, please. Of course you have. You've been afraid all your life. Now, do you see that you're not going to give that up easily? You're not going to give it up overnight, because it's exactly the same thing as you giving up yourself, but what you falsely take as yourself. Therefore, all psychological fear is false. It's a hoax that you believe in. Now, you start disbelieving in any anxiety, tension, or nervousness you have, you start disbelieving in it. I tell you to do that. And you will finally see the truth of the fact that all fear is an imposition. You know what it is when someone imposes on you? They come and they do certain things and they impose on you. Fear is a false imposition. You don't have to tolerate it. But look, that's the fact, but the mistake is you do tolerate it because you are afraid to give up your fear. Because giving up your fear in your mind is the same as giving up your nature. It is the same as giving up your nature, but it's giving up the fearful nature that is tormenting you. So why don't you do it at once? See? When you're on top of that wall, you're going to have to make a decision. I am telling, now look, I'm your friend. I am telling you to jump down on the side of light. Jump. Nothing bad can happen to you. It happens bad to you because you're on the inside. You say, I'm afraid to jump off the wall into that new country for fear I'll be afraid. You are afraid. And the only way you'll ever get rid of it is to leap. If you leap, God Himself will catch you. He'll give angels to take charge of you. You like that semi-quotation? Yes. And you won't fall to the ground hurt at all. There's no way you can get hurt. You have given up your own old life, your old nature, and when you leap, God sends His angels to catch you, and they will, and you'll come down to the ground very gently. You know what you have now? You have a new mind. You have a new heart. You have a new spirit. And you have a new life. You have a new life that will never, never end. You now have everlasting life. And you know it. You understand what that means. And you're living it right here. Right here in this world, you're living it. You know it. Nobody else does. They don't want these classes. They don't want the truth. They want to deceive themselves. They want to stay inside the wall and quote and live in imagination and throw rocks at other people saying they're not throwing them at them, and then call themselves a victim when the rocks come in on them. It's about time we give up the madness of this. You as an individual have to give up your madness. Never mind what anyone else wants to do with their life. You are responsible for yours. I'm responsible for mine. Climb the ladder as fast as you can. Get on top of that wall and leap. See, you don't know that there is a God. You know the word God. You can't trust God when you're inside the wall because you don't know God. You're worshiping yourself. You are your own God. That's a God with a small g. You don't know that God, truth, reality, capital T, capital R, exists outside the wall. There's no way you can know it until you were there. How are you going to find out that truth exists except when you're down in the land of truth? But you have to go there, and the one thing you have to leave behind is yourself, imagination, vanity, falsehood, delusion. Take the leap. And I am telling you the truth, and what I'm going to say to you now. I am telling you the truth, that if you leap, all will be well for eternity. And we'll go home. Good night. The difference between you and me. You are as stubborn as a mule, but I am loyal to my cherished beliefs. You are a blabbermouth, but I am endlessly generous in contributing my wisdom to others. You are pushy, but I take constructive initiative. You are a shameless, so close to food. You are a shameless glutton, but I am an explorer in dietary quantity and variety. You have cunning greed, but I have admirable ambition. You are foolishly gloomy, but I know when it's time to be serious. You gobble up flattery, but I quietly recognize the accuracy of personal commendation. You are rude, but I am not afraid to say what I think. You express childish anger, but I firmly denounce all forms of injustice. You are a cheap tightwad, but my modesty extends to my finances. You are a sex maniac, but I respond fully to nature's request to perpetuate the human race. You indulge in petty gossip, but I discuss human personalities in order to better understand and help them. You are lazy, but I possess relaxed patience. You have obnoxious vanity over your personal appearance, but I am modestly aware of my exterior attractiveness. You think the world owes you a living, but I wish only my rightful rewards so richly deserved. You behave like a petty tyrant, but I take compassionate command. You have paranoid suspicion, but I possess mature perceptions. You nervously run from one escape to another, but I happily pursue many meaningful activities. And last, you have an evil lust for power, but I have a natural talent for social leadership. As long as the world can still scare you, you've got work to do. Simple as that. All right, here's some more that goes along with what we're talking about. You can turn it on if you want. Yeah, okay. Descriptions of tormenting thoughts. There are 17 of them. Descriptions of tormenting thoughts. When appearing as agents for social morality, they solemnly insist it is your moral duty to help others. Then when you are betrayed by others, they sit back and laugh at your gullibility and stupidity. You have had that experience. Description of tormenting thoughts. Tormenting thoughts. They have violent hatred for any person or any idea that is truly good and decent, and rejoice when goodness appears to be injured. They are evil, malignant, depraved, vicious, sick. And if I had space, I would have added more. One prominent characteristic, an animal-like characteristic, is to secretly sneer at everyone, even those they claim to love. They force you to pretend interest in some trivial event and nonsensical solutions to life, then leave you exhausted. Experience with that? Tormenting thoughts we're talking about. They love to predict and talk about calamities, but never tell you that they cause them. They cause them. They disguise themselves as friends, helpers, neighbors, good people, then suddenly drop the role when they have used you for all they can get. They give you bad advice for helping yourself, and when you take it, they accuse you of stupidity and claim you will never make it. They hate you, consider you their permanent enemy. Tormenting thoughts. They torment you with suspicion and then claim that the suspicion is helpful and necessary. Are you in that trap? Suspicion. Ah. See, suspicion. Me. I am threatened by the world. Or I am threatened by the devil. If you feel threatened by the devil, you are the devil. Think about that one. If you feel threatened by the devil, you are the devil. They cunningly promise you rich rewards for listening to them, then desert you to suffer alone with your false gains. How many women have been betrayed by brutal, vicious, psychopathic men? Their evil thrill depends upon your cooperation, for without your ignorant gullibility, they cannot exist. They sneak evil thoughts into your mind and then threaten you with hell for having them. Let's try that one again. They sneak evil thoughts into your mind and then threaten you with hell for having them. They tell you to hate God and then say you are of the devil for doing so. Let's try that one again. They tell you to hate God and then say you are of the devil for doing so. By the way, the devil doesn't know who God is. They insist that their God is an opposite to their own deviltry. Devils worship other devils, calling that other devil a god, whom they hate. Right? Okay. They insist that confusion is necessary and then demand that you try to prove otherwise. They succeed in urging you to pass your torment onto others. The last thing they want you to see is their total lack of real power, for they know that would be their finish. And last, they tell you it is clever or heroic to behave in a certain way and then make you ashamed for doing so. They tell you it is clever or heroic to behave in a certain way and then make you ashamed for doing so. Have you ever been in company somewhere at a party or social occasion where the devil tempted you to show off and something went wrong? You forgot your lines, and your first horror was looking out at that circle of people around you, and they're not smiling. And it crept upon you what you were doing. How many times did that happen and you never used the opportunity rightly to be utterly humiliated? When these sorts of things happen, you fail to see that your opportunity for growing up spiritually, for having a new life, your opportunity consists of being trapped utterly. You won't let yourself be trapped, will you? Someone catches you in saying something silly, or you catch yourself in doing something that's ridiculous. You catch yourself. You won't let yourself be trapped to the point where all there is your clear knowledge that that was stupid. And you have to go through the valley of humiliation, don't you, before you can get to this other part. This is the surrender that you're talking about. One thing which vanity, sickness can't stand is spiritual logic. There is such a thing, and I'll give you some. This is kind of a favorite with me, because if you let yourself be led deeply into the trap and you really want to get out of it, you'll see yourself struggling to get out, and you'll see yourself getting nervous and hatred and wondering how you're going to get out, and there is no way to get out. And you had better not want to get out. You had just better stay there until something is destroyed, namely what you call you. Here it is. Is hatred a part of sanity or insanity? Insanity. Hatred is a part of insanity, right? All right. Is intelligence a part of sanity or insanity? Sanity. Intelligence is a part of sanity. Then any person who is stupid is also insane, right?
Right.
Where does hostility and hatred enter into all this? Hatred, is hatred intelligence or stupidity? Now wait a minute, don't answer yet. Is hatred intelligence or stupidity? Now answer. Now what do you suppose parts of you and all of the world out there, what do you suppose they're going to do with that trap? Now don't get away from it. Don't think this is too simple. How many of you have hatred in you? All right. Now, is your hatred a part of stupidity or a part of intelligence? All right. Therefore, are you actually stupid or intelligent? Now, maybe you are making a little progress in staying in the trap. Staying in it until it destroys something. You think the world out there is ever going to come to a place like this and hear what you just heard in the last 3 minutes? They're not going to come here and let themselves get in a trap. And if by chance they should wander in here, which they do quite often, they do wander in here, they don't come back. Your duty as a person who says he wants a true spiritual life, who wants something eternal, is to set your own traps for yourself. Don't you let yourself get away with it. And you can catch yourself struggling in that trap trying to get out by seeing where you're agitated. How many times have you seen people right in this room getting agitated, getting nervous? And if we don't see it, then you see it for yourself. Well, you begin to see, let's see, I don't quite like what was said because I don't want to consider myself stupid or hostile. I want to consider myself a pretty nice person who has no hostility, who's intelligent. How come you have to fight so hard for your position? If you were living with truth, there'd be nothing to fight for. There it is. The world has to fight because it knows deep, deep, deep down inside that it is wrong. The glory of God in man consists of him seeing that he's wrong and staying there. Staying there until a miracle happens. And you'll never, never, never find any other miracle than the one that happens when you permit yourself to be right in the middle of it, no matter how painful it is, and you stop giving yourself your own answers. When you give yourself your own answers, you're lying about the trap. There's one thing you have to do, is to know that you got caught. I told you it's terrible on the ego. It's hell on it, but it is conscious hell. You know that it's hell, and now for the first time you know that it's apart from you. You didn't know it before because all you were was the trap, which was hell. The burning. Hatred burns, doesn't it? Little things come up. Little tiny things come up and you burn just a little bit. Why don't you know you're burning? That means staying right into the trap and not trying to do anything about it. Not going into any opposite that says that you're nice. You're not nice at all. You're not nice as long as all you have is an intellect. And here's where the deception of words comes in. People use words to convince themselves that they're above words, that they have more than an intellect. You know, saying the word apple give you an apple. Saying the word God make God a reality in your life. All right. You have your choice. You think you've already left the world, far from it. You think when I talk about the world out there, I'm talking about the world out there. I'm talking about the world in there. I'm talking about the world in you that is still bitter over what happened to you. Oh, how you love to think of that man. Ladies, how you love to think of that man and have contempt for him. Right? He was evil and I was good. What do you think he's saying? Does it seem so strange to you that spiritual instructions say you must never, never hate anyone? You must never have hostility toward anyone. You must never let revengeful thoughts go through your mind. Because if you do, then you are suffering from the only thing you suffer from, which is your own ignorance and your refusal to see the ignorance. Any of you keep coming back up to this class from California and other states, and any of you who stay in this class who live here in Boulder City and nearby, you can expect things to get rougher and rougher on you. You think they're rough already? You take one little tiny flame as being hell. You just wait until you see what you are dragged through in this class. You can refuse it if you want. You can say no to it. That's your choice. But I thought maybe you came here because you didn't want to suffer anymore. You didn't want to cry anymore. You didn't want to have this burning hatred to lash out at the world, to smash it, to knock it down. I thought maybe you were tired of fighting. The truth doesn't think the way you think. It has nothing to do with you as you are. You think it does. You think you can be a bargainer. You think you can trick and lie and deceive. How stupid can a human being get that he thinks he can kid truth? In the first place, he's not trying to kid truth because he has no connection with it at all. He's simply deceiving himself, whom he calls the truth, which is an atrocious falsehood. You make up your mind anew, all of you here today, as to what you want for your life. And I will tell you, whether you're aware of it or not, you're not very well aware of it, that there is something that will help you to get rid of yourself. When you see you can't do it yourself, there's nothing you can do. We discussed that before. When there's nothing you can do, there's no thoughts you can think, there's no act you can take, there's no plan you can make. When you see that, what's the only thing left? You know what it is. To give up and stay right in the trap. The trap being something that is not you. Stay there until you're destroyed by something. So that you sit back in your chair and you say, I give up, but not crying about it anymore. You used to do that. Remember, you used to cry. You say, I give up, and you cried about it. You didn't give up at all. You were just very sad because you couldn't have your own way. You were just very depressed because you couldn't be your own savior, because all your little phony tricks didn't work out. That means you have never really broken through the first little space between the two freight cars of musical haunting. Some of you other rest of you run melodies through your mind all the time, you know, especially sentimental ones or exciting ones or whatever. The only way you're going to break it is to catch yourself right in the middle of it and catch that little space between the two freight cars where you know that it has had you for the last, 30 seconds or 5 minutes? Or, I tell you, you're not going to break it until you can actually see, as clear as you can see this wall here, that you were in that state a minute ago. Now you can actually see that you were in there. You can't see a state while you're in it. You are the whole thing. There's no way you can observe it. And look, I have to generalize this because it's too complicated otherwise. But only your long, long hard work here will permit you to be walking around the house and hear that melody goes through your mind all the time, goes through, and all of a sudden, right in the middle of a step almost, you know that you were in that state. Because now you know that you're in the room. You never know that you're in that living room while you're being haunted by the melody. I'm telling you, you don't know it. You're gone. You're way off somewhere. When you're able to, or rather, you're not able, but when you yield and your awareness comes from way up down up here and comes down to you right in the middle of a step, you suddenly know where you are in that room. And at that second, you remember where you were. And where you were is often Kashmir with the Indian love song. This is not easy to break. Nobody said it is. Over and over and over for years. And gradually, you will be more in the state of knowing that you're in the room. And when you know you're in the room, thought doesn't have a chance. Melody doesn't have a chance. Feeling doesn't have a chance. Imagination doesn't have a chance. And you can actually see it fading out and out and out, so that you're with yourself instead of with that melody from the past. It's long, hard work. All of a sudden he sees that he has never for 1 second up to this point had a life of his own. He's had a life of the past. He's had a life of imagination. And he was gone. Now he knows he's been gone all his life. What do you think the prodigal son is all about? The prodigal son is being gone from yourself in imagination, in emotion, in self-pity. It's no more complicated than that. You've been absent from home, from your spiritual home. And indeed, how many people are willing to endure the pain and the shock of seeing for, I read it last night, didn't I, of 100 years. That man was lost for 100 years, and he suddenly realized that he had lost 100 years of his life, and at that minute when he realized it, he had not lost it, because he's recovered at that minute. It's the illustration, a room is dark for 20 years, and you go in and turn on the light. It's just the same as if it had never been dark, right? The light is on. It depends how long it's been dark. Is not truth very gracious then to give us the opportunity to, right now, to cancel ourselves? Aren't you grateful? Don't you want to have 10 meetings a week? Don't you want to wake up in the morning and say, I am so sick and tired of being a slave to my own thoughts. I'm going to fight in the right way to stay awake all day long. And one way I fight to stay awake is to see that I'm not. That haunting song. That resentment, here's one. You're going to see that resentment you have of other people who seem to have power over you. Don't you ever again hate a person who has human social power over you. I don't care if it's the boss, the government, anyone. Anyone who has authority over you on this level of society, and you hate them, you have become their slave, and you're failing in your inner work. You must never ever hate anyone for anything. All you have to do is see the madness of it, the insanity of it. And don't you fall into it yourself. Nancy.
Sometimes my attention becomes so totally diffused in that if I think I'm trying to have the arrow of attention go both ways, I'm not able to be attentive to maybe to what you're saying, for example, if I'm looking at myself, and then the whole attention is gone.
All right, that can be cleared up. Ordinary thought can only go in one direction at a time. It can't go both ways, which was what we're trying to do. So we see both ourselves and the outer world at the same time. Thought can never do that. I'll get that through your head. If you're trying to make this mistake of thinking about yourself and about the world out there, you can't do it. It's impossible. So something that is above that's opposites, is it not? Me and the world out there. So something that is above these opposites has to do it for you. And that comes when you let go of yourself. When you let go of yourself as an object of attention, you automatically let go of the world as an object of wrong attention. And when these opposites are seen and understood, and you understand there's no way you can do spiritual work with the mind except to acquire basic knowledge, that's okay. Once you see that, you let go. And then the letting go is automatically the arrow in both directions. Awareness is an awareness of everything instantaneously, right now. I've told you this, told you last night. when you're giving a talk, when you're asking a question. We had it just this morning. You're asking a question, all right? If your arrow is pointed just one way, if you're thinking about yourself, hoping the question comes out right and sounds intelligent and all that, and you're living in daydreams about you being a sincere student, then the arrow is just that way. And you won't want to face yourself because you're afraid you might see a false motive in actually asking the question. Dare it. Let go of yourself so that the same... Well, here, actually while you're talking, maybe up front, maybe a question out there, or out in life, you're out there, right in the middle of your saying something to someone, you saw that you said it because you felt you had to. You said it because you were compelled to. And see your own discomfort at having to answer a person, to enter into a conversation with someone. I didn't want to talk with her. She blabs my ear off. But I'm trapped. You're never trapped by anyone except your own false belief that you're a nice person who must help someone. That person you are helping is going to get you when she has a chance. And she's looking for the chance, and so is he.
What about the so-called dilemma of working out there in the world with a lot of crazy people, like in a crazy business where the people are actually rewarded for their neurosis? I mean,
Sure they are.
I'm up against the thing where is there a separate reality in business, ethics-wise and behavior-wise, as opposed to this work? Or is there really no division?
We're given a mind to operate properly on the social level. We have many things to do. We earn a living, we build a house, or whatever we do. Now, don't forget what I'm going to tell you next, and it'll clear up 99% of your question on that, and the rest becomes easy. If this was a sane world, all of us could use our intellects properly to build houses. For one person just needs a smaller house. If you have 2 or 3 children, then you need a larger house. You need a car with a minimum of power and no decorations at all. If men were sane, then we could use our minds properly to use the earth's resources properly. But we're not. The world is utterly mad. If your mind was right, then you'd have no problem at all now. But you say, but I'm not in this sane world. I'm in an insane world. Remember the story last night about the man who tried to bring the muddy water over the other? Let me ask all of you a question. I want you to tell me, please, you're not going to be able to do it. I want you to tell me who told you that you're at the mercy of an insane world out in business, out in social life, in any way at all. I want you to tell me who told you that your spirit is at the mercy of the madness out there. You'll never be able to answer that question because no one ever told you that. You told yourself that because you want something from that world out there. You can go out in business, you can go out in their social life and be a perfectly sane human being. 1 and 2.
You talked about anticipation being wrong.
Yes.
And I find myself, from the day I leave Boulder, when I go home tomorrow, I start anticipating coming back again the next month. Can that ever be right?
Yes, a yearning for more truth is never wrong. But why don't you take that yearning for truth right back in your own home? Why are you wasting and diverting your energy on it? Why don't you look? See, you don't know what work is. You think it's reading or coming here. Let me tell you what work is. Now, I'll give it to you right now. Work means for you to turn your attention back on yourself right here now. Where are your hands? You don't know, do you? As an exercise. I don't say all your life you have to go around asking, where are my hands? That's an exercise in proper self-awareness. Do it now. That's the answer to you. Where are your hands now? You know where they are? You know you're nodding your head? Are you conscious of your age, that you're not 20 years old anymore?
You know, that just hit me the other day. I looked in the mirror, I saw myself, and I thought it was looking at somebody else. I had not looked at myself. I didn't know that I'm almost 60 years old. You know, I was amazed. All day long I thought, I haven't looked at myself in years.
Is there anyone in this room who's over 30 years of age?